What if I told you that almost everything we think drives people, their beliefs, their logic, their opinions, what if that's all just a story? Today, we're going to dive into this really fascinating way of looking at things, a framework that says we're not actually interacting with people's conscious thoughts, but with something way, way deeper. All right, let's just rip the Band-Aid off with this one. This is a direct quote from our source material, and it gets right to the point. The whole idea that our beliefs are in the driver's seat, that they determine our reality, well, the central idea here is that that's just fundamentally wrong. So this completely flips the script on how we think about this stuff. On one side, you have the story we tell ourselves, right? Our so-called beliefs. But on the other side, you have the truth. And the truth is our feelings. The huge insight here is that we don't think up a belief and then go act on it. No. We feel something first, deep down, and then our brain scrambles to write a story that makes sense of that feeling. And that story, that's what we call a belief. Okay, so let's dig into this a little deeper with a concept called the belief lie. This really gets to the heart of what our conscious mind is actually doing and, more importantly, what it's not. I love this metaphor. It's so perfect. Just imagine, deep inside you, a whole bunch of unconscious stuff happens. The real decisions get made in the shadows. And then, way after the fact, your cortex, the human, logical part of your brain, casually walks up to a microphone and reads a prepared statement explaining why everything happened the way it did. That press release, that's your belief. It's not the cause, it's the justification that comes later.
Okay, so if our beliefs aren't calling the shots, then what is? Well, this is where we get to the absolute core of this idea. We're all basically running on this kind of outdated survival software. It's programmed by everything that's ever happened to us. These are our hidden scars.
So how does this software actually get written? Well, think about it like this. Maybe when you were a kid, you raised your hand in class and you were just totally humiliated. Your nervous system doesn't just forget that. Nope. It writes a little line of code right then and there. Speaking up is dangerous. Avoid at all costs. Or hey, maybe you were shamed for how you looked when you were growing up. Your system might write a rule that connects the feeling of desire with the feeling of disgust. It's not logical, it's a protection mechanism. It's a safety program designed to make sure you never feel that hurt again. And here's one more, just to really hammer this point home. If you got punished for telling the truth, what's the only conclusion for a brain that's just trying to survive? Lying is safer. Lying equals survival. See? These become the automatic programs that just run our lives. And that right there, that's what our source for this calls scar tissue. This isn't just a bad memory you think about sometimes. No, this is outdated survival software that is still running on the hardware of your nervous system today, dictating how you react to things right here, right now. Okay, this is all fascinating, but how do we actually read this code? How can we see what's going on behind the curtain past that press release? Well, the source gives us a really powerful three-layer framework for decoding the human operating system. So, it's a three-layer system, and it builds on itself, see? At the very bottom, the foundation, you've got our core needs. This is the deep survival programming that shapes all of our social behavior. Then, built on top of that, you have decision pillars, which are the rules that dictate every single choice we make. And at the very top, the destination, are our values, the future we're all constantly chasing. Let's break them down. So layer one is needs. We're all driven by one primary need, whether it's for significance, acceptance, strength, you name it. And these needs tell you everything about our deepest fears. Take significance, for example. If that's someone's primary need, their biggest fear in life is being invisible, being ignored. So finding that need shows you what they're constantly running away from. Okay, moving up a layer, we get to the decision pillars. This is how a person goes about getting those needs met. It's how their brain maps reality. So someone whose pillar is novelty will always chase the new, shiny thing to feel significant. But a person with a conformity pillar, they'll always look to see what the group is doing first, because for them, safety and acceptance comes from the crowd. And that brings us to the top of the pyramid, core values. This is the big why. It's the future that person is sprinting towards. For someone with a core value of freedom, their whole life is designed to avoid feeling trapped. But for someone whose value is connection, they'll put relationships above everything else. This is the ultimate goal that their needs and pillars are serving. So, why does any of this matter? Why go through the trouble of decoding this human operating system?
Well, because if you don't, you end up speaking a completely different language. And your attempts to connect, to persuade, to just understand someone, they're doomed before you even say a word.
This right here shows you the problem in a nutshell. Let's say your highest value is connection. So you offer someone more time together, more closeness. But what if their highest value is freedom? To them, your amazing offer feels like a cage. They pull back, and the whole thing falls apart. Not because anyone's wrong, but because you are speaking the language of connection to a person who only understands freedom.
So you got to remember this. Every argument you have, every sale you lose, every time you just can't get through to someone, it's almost never about the facts or the logic. It's just two different safety programs, two sets of scar tissue clashing into each other, each one desperately trying to keep its owner safe.
Once you get this, it really changes how you see everything. It lets you make this profound shift where you stop reacting to the surface-level behavior, the mask that we all wear, and you start to see the actual being that's hiding behind it.
So look, if you want to actually connect with people, if you want real influence in your life, in your work, you have to stop talking to the mask. Stop arguing with the press release, with the opinions and the beliefs. You have to learn how to speak directly to the operating system that's running the whole show underneath.
And really, that brings us to the question we should all be asking ourselves. In our day-to-day lives, in our most important relationships, and our biggest disagreements, are we talking to the actual person? Or are we just shouting at their mask, at their outdated, scared survival software? Because when you finally learn to see the being behind the mask, when you can see their needs and their pillars and their values playing out in real time, it's a total game changer. You start to realize this is what it feels like to finally be in the room that everybody else is completely blind to. You finally understand what's really going on.